Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. We're going to start. We have two particularly interesting, I think, pieces to look at tonight. Well, that's a little bit too, let's see, actual size. That's a little better. Okay. Yeah, one of them is not what we normally do, but it actually gives a lot of historical precedence for what we learn consistently, which is a work of the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe Chabad, and this is kind of giving an appreciation for it. It's an excerpt from one of or an appendix to one of the discourses of the Rebbe. Okay, so it's written in the Zohar in the 6th century of the 6th millennium. Okay, do we need to know what that is or when that is? That is, I believe, the years 17. It's the Enlightenment era, basically the 1700s, 1600s, 1700s, around that time. The portals of wisdom above and the fountains of wisdom below will be opened. This is alluded to in the words, in the 600th year of the life of Noah, all the fountains of the great depths burst forth. The Zohar plainly means that the gates of the wisdom, or sciences in general, and more essential import, the gates to the wisdom of the Torah in particular, will be opened at that time. Indeed, we have seen this fulfilled in the development of knowledge in the sciences which occurred in that period. In regards to wisdom of the Torah, it was also in those days that we merited the revelation of the inner aspect of the Torah, that part of the Torah which until then had been concealed. Originally, this knowledge had been revealed and known only to a select few, and even then discreetly and not publicly. Right? So that's referring to the hidden dimensions, or the concealed dimensions, which we know as Kabbalah, and certainly Chassidus, which is I guess now called the Kabbalah. They withheld these studies from the discussions and examinations of the majority of the people of Israel. The dissemination of the inner part of the Torah began only with the Arizal, who said it is only in these later generations that it is permitted and a duty to reveal the wisdom. Even then, however, its revelation was not widespread, nor was it diffused in such a manner that it will sustain and nourish until the appearance of the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, so we're hitting on major. I'm going to go to the original web page because this is actually not as good as I thought it was. Let's see, desktop share. No. Let me go right here. There we go. Okay, so this is enter full screen. So we're hitting on major players in the revelation of what we know today as Chassidus, and really what's generally termed the inner dimensions of the Torah. Right, the outer dimensions are, what do I need to do? How do I need to live? The inner dimensions are, what do I need to think? How do I need to feel? Okay. So we just touched on the Baal Shem Tov. Okay. Originally, knowledge of it's like few. Even then, however, its revelation was not widespread. It was diffused in a manner that it will sustain and nourish until the appearance of the Baal Shem Tov. Upon his arrival, and through his efforts, the extensive and all-embracing dissemination of the wisdom to all Israel began. Okay, and his name was Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. So in a way, it was appropriate for him to be the one. This was in accordance with the response of the king Mashiach to the question of the Baal Shem Tov. Right, so there's a known story of the Baal Shem Tov had some kind of interaction with Mashiach, and he said, he asked him, what any of us asked him, when will the master come? When will Mashiach come? And Mashiach responded, when your well springs are dispersed abroad. And it was especially after the revelation of Chabad Chassidus through Rabbi Shneur Zalman that it attained the level of nourishment, for then Chassidus was articulated in terms of man's intellectual understanding and in rational language, food. So, basically, when his teachings would spread far and wide, and
I'm going to do this for a couple of minutes, Elise.
Not only would they be known
I'm going to do this for a couple of minutes, Elise.
Not only would they be known as
you just talk.
Not only would they be known as a particular, not only would they be known on the surface level, right? Like people would know the Zohar, but they wouldn't know what it means. But through the Alter Rebbe, they would understand the meaning of it. They would actually have an effect on their internal condition, right? That's what the particular thoughts of Torah are supposed to do. They're supposed to infiltrate our mind and fill up our mind to eventually affect our emotions. So when you think about them, you have a requisite emotion. That's what a meditation is. Okay, and especially after the revelation of the Chabad Chassidus. So this is another, I guess, 2 generations after the Baal Shem Tov revealed it in an even more general way. That there's Rabbi Shneur Zalman, which is what we primarily study, revealed it to an even greater extent of people, and in an even more ingestible manner and digestible manner. From that point on, this knowledge was disseminated in a mode of continuous progression and increasing light. And I'm sure everybody can see how that occurred, right? You have Rebbeim that I guess were kind of becoming more and more entrenched in the modern practices of dissemination of information, right? They were using printing presses. They were disseminating the manuscripts at first, and then they opened up their own publishing house. Eventually, the Frierdiker Rebbe, when he came to America in 1940. So they were being consistent with all the modern modes of disseminating information to stay current and to, I guess, compete with the with the well springs from below, we might say, which the sciences, the philosophies, etc. From that point on, the knowledge of somebody, okay, at first glance, however, this matter is difficult to understand. The period of the latter generations is the advent of Mashiach, as the sukkah of David has fallen to a level of feet and heels. Furthermore, it is bereaved generation because its darkness is doubled and redoubled. So basically, what we're saying there is that we know that our generation is a very low generation, right? We can't compare ourselves to Avram. We can't compare ourselves to Adam. We can't compare ourselves to the Rishonim, right? The sages in the Gemara, in the Mishnah. How is it possible that precisely these generations will merit the most sublime revelations, right? Does that make sense? You would assume Rabbi Kiva would merit such a revelation, or earlier generations, but us, we're such a low generation. How is it that we're going to merit such a lofty generation? The likes of which the earlier generations did not merit, not even the generations of the Tanaim, right? That's the generation of the Mishnah. Amoraim, that's the Gemara. Geonim, that's, I guess, after the destruction. That's after the Babylonian exile. And Rishonim, are the from, I guess you could say, the sixth century till maybe the 1500s or earlier. We find this same question, however, in regard the Rishonim, by the way, examples are like Rashi, Rambam, Ramban. We find this same question, however, in regard to the Torah in general. Our sages of blessed memory have said, all that a distinguished scholar will introduce into the Torah in the future was already given to Moshe at Sinai. Do you believe that? Like the halachas for using a refrigerator with a light bulb in it on Shabbos was given to Moshe on Sinai. It would seem that this idea, too, is difficult to understand. Since all the creative contributions of the scholars were already given to Moshe at Sinai, why then were they not revealed to all of generations which preceded the arrival of this distinguished scholar and his introduction of the idea? Right. Eventually, it was, let's say, Rabbi Yosef Cairo, right, the codifier of the Shulchan Aruch, let's say, who brought a lot of halachas down to earth, right, kind of facilitated their revelation on earth. So why was it that it only was up to him in such a later generation if it was available to Moshe at the giving of the Torah? The explanation of these questions is as follows. By the way, if anyone wants to read, you're more than welcome to read. Just unmute yourself and read.
I won't read, but can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So you just said, why is it that we'd be getting it when the other generations were so much higher level madrega, right?
Yeah, right.
So wouldn't you think that maybe it's like Mitzrayim, that they got so low that's when the time for Moshe to rescue them had to come before they sunk even lower?
They hit a critical mass. They couldn't suffer anymore, so they earned it, you're saying? So our lowliness, yeah, but I was saying, but our lowliness is not to our, their suffering was purposeful. So, yeah, so I guess that's a similar point, that our suffering is purposeful. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, we also have to consider that we're not just our generation. We're actually the culmination of all the generations, which I think we're going to see, which is, I think, similar to what you're saying, is that we're hitting a critical mass, and our generation is only a slice or an iteration of many, many parts to this journey of Torah being revealed throughout the ages. Yeah, so you could definitely make an argument both ways, but I think the question still stands, and it's worth holding to see what the answer the Rebbe gives us, because if you look at us, we're not really prepared to receive it. I think most people aren't even aware of what Torah really is. I mean, I don't think anyone can ever say what it truly is, but I mean, they're not really familiar with it to such an extent that they could ever handle receiving the most inner dimensions that were never revealed before. That's kind of, it seems a little bit too magnanimous for such an ignorant generation. And I don't use that term derogatorily. I use it just accurately. Okay, it is written, and I'm speaking myself, it is written in the Torah, he has made everything beautiful in its time. The sages commented on the verse, by rights, the Torah should have been given through Adam. The Holy One, blessed be he, reconsidered the matter and said, I will give it to his descendants. For the Holy One, blessed be he, appoints a time for everything he does. And this is what is meant by the beautiful time, the time which is appropriate. relevant,
Lee,
and necessary for this matter. Yes.
by the way, good to be here. Thank you for learning with us.
Thank you for being here,
What,
Mikhail.
what year is this Sikha so I can find it online?
Oh, yeah, sure. If I can send you a link,
Yeah,
or you
that
can just look it up.
works too.
It's if you go into the essence of Chassidus, Mikhail, I'm going to post the link in the chat right now, so you can just open it right there.
Thank you
How
very
about
much.
that? You're very welcome.
Yes.
Okay, so we're scrolled down a little bit. We're still in the first one, I believe. And if you want to read, by all means, just unmute yourself, okay? Read.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, all distinguished scholars, Torah is derived from the words. Okay, let's see here. The question as follows: is written in the Torah, He has made everything beautiful in its time. The sages comment in the verse: by rights, the Torah should have been given through Adam. The Holy One Blessed Be He reconsidered the matter and said, "I will give it to his descendants." For the Holy One Blessed Be He appoints a time for everything He does, and this is what is meant by the beautiful time, the time which is appropriate, relevant, and necessary for this man. Right? It's like we're not going to serve all the food at once. We're going to do it strategically in a way where everything can be maximized and complemented, etc. Thus, and that's beauty. Beauty is balance. Thus, it can be understood that until the arrival of that time in which the idea came to be introduced into the Torah by a distinguished scholar, everyone knows what that's referring to, right? That's the particular sage that brought that Torah. It's called a chiddush, a chidushe Torah, right? A novel concept within Torah, right? That's the person who merited bringing it into the world. There was as yet no need for the concept. So until the person who brought it into the world brought it in, there was no need for the concept, and therefore it was not revealed. Okay, simple enough. Yeah, and you can say the advent of the internet, let's say, wasn't brought into the world, wasn't invented until it was absolutely necessary, meaning we hit another critical mass where we needed to communicate with people for trade purposes, for commerce, etc., that we required something like an internet to communicate at such a speed with such a precision. Torah is derived from the word hoyra'ah. Okay? Torah hoyra'ah, teaching or guidance, because its purpose is to teach the Jewish people the path in which they should walk. And by the way, walk is very strategic. Halacha, right? And the service by which they should strive to purify and refine the world. Yeah, nothing's left up to guesswork. Everything is precise. It's just a matter of how much humility we're willing to undergo in order to receive that. Which indeed, or yeah, to be receptive to it. Which indeed is the very purpose of the soul's descent to this world, to refine it. Hence, since the world as yet had no need for the purification which would accomplish through the new idea, whatever it was, the innovation revealed. Okay, it wasn't needed yet, so therefore it wasn't revealed. And by the way, if it was revealed when it wasn't needed yet, it wouldn't have been appreciated. So it might as well not even have been revealed. You get it? The need is what begot. Hashem puts the refuah, the cure in the world right before. And by the way, I find that the most inspiring Torah books, English Torah books that I have, I go to I look, this is true. I look in the front of them, like Living Inspired, the Kibbutz books. They're all printed or published the exact year I was born. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. And thus, the arrival of that time specifically in which the scholar introduces the idea into the Torah itself demonstrates that this is a beautiful time for the idea. For the condition of the world is such that it urgently needs the instruction flowing from the scholar's innovation. Yes, the same explanation applies to our subject. All the revelations of the future with the coming of Mashiach depend on our actions and service throughout the duration of the exile. Right, there's no downtime. Everything's useful. That's not to say you can't take downtime, but it has to be strategic and purposeful. It has to be beautiful downtime. This statement refers not only to the service of the final exile, but in light of the saying of our sages that a mitzvah is ascribed only to he who completes it. Right. By the way, that's why, I mean, David is credited with the Beis Hamikdash, but I think Shlomo is credited primarily with the Beis Hamikdash, because he was the one who completed. It is understood that when the service and the purification of the exile are completed, then the aim and purpose of all exiles will be fulfilled and consummated. For the redemption from the exile is a redemption after which there will be no more exile. You said that last time. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't say it last time. They've been consistent. It would follow accordingly that our service, which brings to a conclusion the fourth exile and inaugurate the fourth turning, right? Remember the first year, until they experienced all 4 seasons, they had no idea what was going on, right? Until they recognized patterns. And inaugurates the succeeding redemption, thus affects and elevates the 3 preceding exiles. Right, so the 3 preceding seasons, winter, spring, summer, right, didn't make sense until fall. Assuming winter is the first season, I'm not sure about that. Thus, it is precisely as much as these latter generations are the heels of Mashiach. Everyone heard that, right? We're the heels of Mashiach. For in them is to be found the purification and culmination of the 4th and last exile. That these generations are charged with a greater responsibility. You say the heels, the great responsibility. We're just the heels. We're worse than chopped liver. at least chopped liver has like a market value. What are people going to pay for the dust from the heels? And their service must be of higher quality and undertaken with greater strength and effort than the service of the preceding generations in period of exile. Okay. Yeah, because everything's hinging on us. For our service is the final preparation for the complete and perfect redemption to transform the doubled and redoubled darkness to doubled and redoubled light. Right. So it's specifically because of our lowliness and our darkness that we have the greatest potential, right? And it's simple. The reason for that is one word: leverage. Or if you're of the British persuasion, a lever, right? We act as a lever because we have that. We're at the fulcrum. We're at ground zero. Since the Holy One, blessed be He, is not a tyrant to His creatures and demands of them only according to the measure of the powers He has given them, right? And he would know. It is therefore specifically in these generations that the most sublime and inner portions of the Torah are revealed, right? So we get this most vulnerable, powerful, potent Torah because we can use it to the greatest effect. And through these revelations, special powers flow from above for this elevated work. For the Torah is strength and might. It gives power for achievement in the service of God. Yeah, that's for sure. Furthermore, in addition to the fact that the great task in itself demands special powers, it is known that the more necessary the service and the closer it is to its desired end and purpose, the klipa and the evil inclination exert themselves more vigorously in order to oppose and hinder it. Right. In any movie where there's some kind of demonic force or antagonist, the mythical or other, he's always exerting himself in the most malicious and right, like scary, all out manner right before he's about to be defeated. And so too with our we have the most distractions, the most we have the most challenges from the opposition right at this time, and that makes sense again because it's according to the struggle is the reward. And since the service of the latter generations literally reaches to the culminating end of the entire process of purifying the world, the opposition of the evil inclination becomes greater and more intense in order to prevent the person from fulfilling the duty with which he is charged. Right? If it's game 7 of the championship series, everybody's going to be playing or should be playing at their best with the greatest intensity, right? Because or else I don't know how they got there, right? Or why they're still there. Hence, it is also for the reason that we in this generation most urgently require special powers in order that through our service we be able to fulfill and perfectly realize the will of the Holy One blessed be. For the Holy One blessed be desired to have for Himself a dwelling place in the lower worlds, right? So ultimately, we're what's standing in between Hashem and His greatest goal or desire. Okay, does anyone want to read to base? If not, I can do it.
Okay.
I'll count to 10 in my head.
Okay, I'll read it.
Great.
Okay. Ready. It can be said, in light of all the above, that just as this general difference exists between the latter generations and the earlier generations, so does it also exist among the latter generations themselves. Just as the responsibility of each generation nearer to the coming of Mashiach greatly increases, likewise the revelation of the most sublime ideas of the Torah greatly increases. In relation to the earlier generations, we have seen this to be true in regards to the revelation of the inner part of the Torah. From generation to generation, it becomes more revealed and further expresses himself in terms of rational understanding and intellectual form.
Right. So not only does it become more revealed, it becomes more available to a wider audience.
An example of such greatly increased exposition is especially prominent in the Mamarim, the Hasidic discourses of Rabbi Sholem Dov Ber. Here, the concepts of Hasidus are articulated more broadly and clearly in terms of rational understanding and intellectual comprehension, more so than is apparent even to the people on our level in the Mamarim of the rabbis who preceded him. There is a well-known saying of the early Hasidim concerning Rabbi Sholem Dov Ber that he is the Rambam, Maimonides of Hasidus. For his Mamarim, the concepts of Hasidus were formulated in a highly ordered and systematic way, with step-by-step explanations and clarifying illustrations, etc. We can understand, in other words, the art scroll. We can understand the nature of the Mamarim of Rabbi Sholem Dov Ber from what the Rambam writes concerning his work, the Yad Chazakah. I decided to put together the results, all in plain language and terse style, so that Thus, the entire oral law might become systematically known to all. Statements clear, accessible, and correct. In his Mamarim, Hasidus was formulated in revealed rather than arcane form, as mentioned above, into plain language consisting of statements accessible and correct. Thank
And
you.
that happens on all levels of existence, right? We go from a tyrannical, a monarchy, and that gets broken down into a something more of a democracy where everybody has more, right, an equal say. So too here, everybody has access to the same wisdom that prior to its revelation was available only to a select few.
Like you were talking about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, as far as reading the Torah in the language that you understand, as opposed to
Yeah, specifically
Hebrew.
the oral Torah, which is what we need to know. That's what we're talking about here. The inner dimensions are certainly considered the oral Torah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Thank you for the mitzvah of reading. I'll now give the honor to someone else.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start the bidding at 2 times chai. The Maimarim of the year 5666. We're okay. That's the year 1905. We're a series about the Rabbi Shalom Bagada. He's the father of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe. So he's the third to last Rebbe, or second to last Rebbe. I don't know if you consider it. 2 Rebbeim before the one who's known as the Rebbe. All the distinctive qualities elaborated above in praise of his Maimarim are expressed in a particularly outstanding manner in this series. Furthermore, it is not only in these Maimarim that Chassidus is revealed in a broader and more widely comprehensible rational form, but also the connection of this wisdom to the future redemption. As explained above, this is the very reason why the inner part of the Torah is revealed more and more from generation to generation, is more readily apparent in this series. As it is known, Rabbi Shalom Dober, also known as the Rebbe Rashab, associated his discourses of this year, this particular 1905 1906, with the predictions of the Ketz. The Ketz is this term usually refers to the specific years in which it is especially likely for Mashiach to come. Okay. So I guess a prediction found in several works in reference to that year, and also with the fact at the time that there were pogroms in Russia and that it was the year after a leap year. Okay, so which is I guess is a particularly favorable time or unfavorable. In particular terms, as explained previously, it is clear that we have been endowed with powers from above in order to transform the double and redouble darkness. Right. So we're given everything we need. We have access to, and if we don't have access to it, we don't need it. It is written the Shekhinah went into exile in Edom with them, and is called by the name Shekhinah because it dwells and clothes itself in all the worlds. Which means that even though we find ourselves in a very humble condition, nevertheless, he may be blessed, dwells with us, even unto, and I will dwell within them, within every single one. He gives us the ability to conclude the exile, to purify the small jars that as of yet have not been purified, and to merit that he to darkness and end to the exile afterward, bring the beginning of the redemption, followed by the complete perfection and the true redemption through our righteous Mashiach, speedily in our days. Okay, that should fill you with strength. Oiz v'hadar. So okay, now we're gonna go to a brief summary on the Alter Rebbe. This was just an appreciation in homage to the Alter Rebbe, and now we're gonna actually delve into his work. Again, if you can't stay for whatever reason, no need to excuse yourself. You can just let yourself out, just because I want to try and get as much of this in as possible, just so we can all have this under our belt. Okay, so this is like I said, a summary of the mimer from Likkutei Torah, which is the main compendium of Maimarim, Hasidic discourses of the first Rabbi Chabad, the Alter Rebbe. And it corresponds to this week's parsha, which is Parshas Devarim. Okay, Tzion b'mishpat dipade v'shaveha. And by the way, if anyone wants to read again, just interrupt me. This mimer speaks of a verse in this week's Haftorah that discusses the exile and the means of redemption. The verse states that Tzion will be redeemed with mishpat, judgment, and shavat and shaveha, the captives, still very relevant, will be redeemed with tzedakah. The mimer examines the meaning of Tzion, what it refers to, and how Mishpat redeems it. Through doing so, the Alter Rebbe enters into a discussion of the order of the soul's descent below, its purpose, and its goals. He then touches on the core of the spiritual exile that we experience and how we can remove ourselves from it. In a famous talk on the 28th of Nisan in 1991, the Lubavitcher Rebbe started, I have done all that I can, and lamented the central fact that we are in exile in Avodas Hashem. This mimer sheds light on the essence of the spiritual exile, which the Rebbe so bitterly pointed out in the Sikha. Leaving the spiritual exile will certainly hasten the ultimate redemption, meaning everything's in our hands. If we wish to see a global change, a global rectification, we have to start at the level of the individual. Okay, explanation of the Maimer. How can we serve God with fresh and new excitement each day? That's what we're going to discuss. How did the soul descend into the body? Okay, what is the avoda demand of the soul? What is the level of soul referred to as Tzion? And how do we remove our soul from the spiritual exile? Good question. The Torah commands us to view the mitzvahs as if they are new each day. This means that one is to act with the same novel enthusiasm each day one performs a mitzvah, as if it were the first time doing so. Right? There's a song, it feels like the first time, like the very first time. That's really about Torah and mitzvahs. How is this possible to accomplish? Right. This matter can be understood through first resolving the seeming paradox behind the descent of the soul into the physical world. Prior to its descent, the soul was bound to God, as is known that the soul exists prior to the 6 days of creation. Right. The soul is eternal and derived from God's level of thought. Okay. So thought is essentially more unified with the soul, with the eternality of the soul, as opposed to, we're going to see speech. Speech is much more superficial and dependent, and therefore not eternal, right? Limited. The sages state, within whom did he discuss the creation? With the souls of the righteous, and all the Jews are considered righteous. Yeah, and we're not just flattering all of us. This is true. It thus remains to be understood what benefit exists for the soul by descending below if it was already united with God prior to the descent. Yeah, what can be gained? I mean, we had such a sweet deal all up there, right? To understand this, we must first examine the order of the soul's descent and its required avoda. By the way, in case anyone doesn't know, avoda is our main work, which is another term. Avoda is connected to the word for tanning leather, which is a very involved process of transforming one kind of material into another, and it's very involved, and it's laborious, etc. So that's avoda. As illustrated within the prayer of Elokai Neshama. The prayer of Elokai Neshama. Each morning upon awaking, we recite the prayer of Elokai Neshama, which includes the stages of descent of the soul below. In the times of the Talmud, this prayer was said immediately upon awakening, even prior to Asher Yatzar. We first state that the soul is pure, tohoirehi, right? Ata yitzarti, ata faktabi. This means that the soul derives from the level called tehiru ila'a, supernal purity, in which the state of the soul is absolute godliness. Okay, sheer godliness, right? So you could say it's like cut from whole cloth. We then state barasa, which refers to the transforming of the soul into created entity so that it can feel separate from godliness and hence serve him. Okay, so that's like, I guess, made in China, manufactured in America. Barasa is manufactured. So it's a separate entity. Ve'ata mishamra b'kirbi means that Hashem guards the soul within the body so that it does not abandon or escape from the body. Yeah, it doesn't go AWOL. The next segment of Elokai Neshama discusses the first level of avoda required of a person. Okay. The 3 avodas required of the soul below. There are 3 different avodas required of the soul in the body. Hoida'a, bracha, and avas Hashem. The avoda of hoda is right? Anyone know hoda is like I don't know. Let's see. I guess like toida, like gratitude, is a person's obligation to recognize that Hashem's opinion is the correct opinion. Right. So it's giving giving credit where credit is due. On which matter do the souls and Hashem argue? Only on the perspective of ex nihilo, right? From the human angle, we view ourselves as the true existence and call Hashem I and nothing, right? Because our brains don't go that high. Thus, forming the concept of yesh me'ayin, we feel that we truly exist and it is Hashem who is not seen or fathomable. In other words, we see ourselves as more of a tangible reality than God. Right, because we're so bound up with ourselves, right? That's the operative word. We're in truth, from Hashem's perspective, true perspective, we don't exist. He's the only existence. However, Hashem views it the someone's listening?
I don't see it. I thought having zealous for Hashem.
Someone say something? No? Okay. If I don't hear it for whatever reason, you can type it in the chat. I'm going to see them. However, Hashem views it as the opposite way. He is the true yesh. Yeah, someone say something? No? Okay. He is the true yesh existence, and we are the ayin, being not nullified to him. Therefore, we have to admit that Hashem's opinion is correct, and we are the actual ayin, and he is the true yesh. Right? We have to like artificially inject that into our brains until we know it to be the truth. right? We have to override our factory setting so that this becomes our MO. This is expressed in the saying, Moida ani lefanecha, which concludes the blessing of Elokai Neshama. Nevertheless, simply admitting to this fact does not necessarily change the person, as it is a matter of belief, and a person can believe in something while simultaneously acting contrary to his belief. Right, I know smoking's killing me, yet I'm on my way to have my second arm amputated and still smoking. For this change to occur, the avoda of bracha, not me personally, but I've heard, the avoda of bracha is required. I did smoke at one point, by the way, but, you know, I was able to take the belief and bring it down to the level of knowledge. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying it's possible. A bracha refers to a blessing, which connotes revelation. It reveals the matter to one's soul, hence changing one's nature to be in tune with his beliefs. By the way, right, I'm sure you've heard this before, but belief is nothing more than a lie. It's a particular lie that we convince ourselves is favorable. But when does a belief become more than a belief? When it becomes knowledge. When we have enough references, which we consider be if knowledge is a table, references are the legs. They're going to support that particular belief to make it knowledge, to make it, we might call it a conviction, right? If you have conviction, what is that? That's a really, really strong belief. And what's a really weak belief? An opinion, right? An opinion is like not even a belief. It's something I'm considering, but it can be easily disputed, right? As opposed to a conviction, which is very difficult. If someone shows me evidence to the contrary, I'm just going to double down. Yet, it is only through engaging in Torah mitzvahs that one can effectively bring this revelation of bracha to his soul. Okay. However, in order for a person to go from the level of hoidah, belief in Hashem's oneness, and our nullification to the level of bracha, revealing godliness into our souls, one must first incorporate the avoda of love of Hashem in between. Okay, so what's love? Anyone want to tell me what's love in this equation? Love is the means of bringing that which is only a belief, meaning that which is only at the level of intellect, down to the level of knowledge, the level of me as I am in truth. Okay? So ultimately, it's through arousing love in connection with one of my beliefs or my opinions, let's say, that's going to ultimately allow it to descend and occupy a permanent space in my heart. When you know something in your heart, as opposed to think something in your head, which one is going to allow you to right, stake your existence on the thing or the concept or the idea? Probably the knowledge is going to be a little bit stronger in that regard, in arousing action and affecting our conduct. Okay, does anyone want to read? I'm going to count to 10 in my head, so just unmute yourself and jump in. How does one reach a state of feeling love for God? Good start whenever you want.
Hi, I'll read.
Okay, Shkoyach, go ahead.
Okay. From how does one reach a state of feeling love for God, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone claims they love God. Who wouldn't love God? After all, He creates us, feeds us, and provides us with enjoyment of life. Nonetheless, there is a world of a difference between the mere words, I love you, God, and the translation of these words into actual rapturous feelings of loving for godliness and attachment to Him. To reach this state of love, one requires a great amount of work on his character, as it does not come naturally. How does one accomplish this? Through completing the verses Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. Through contemplating the verses Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. One is to contemplate how all the myriads of world and creations come into existence only via God's level of Malchus, which is but a mere ray of contracted godliness. And yet when a Jew down here performs a mitzvah, he's able to draw down God himself and attach with his very essence. Contemplating this.
Michael, can you just back a little bit away from the microphone? You're just coming in a little bit strong in the audio. But you're doing good otherwise. It's just just a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
It's good to have the feedback.
A little bit less love between you and the microphone would be ideal here.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you for accepting the feedback.
Thank you. Which is very good. And yet, when a Jew down here performs a mitzvah, he's able to draw down God himself and attach with its very essence. Contemplating this notion should give a Jew great joy and fill him with a passionate desire to cleave to God. This applies even if, until this moment, one was a Rasha Gomor. As nevertheless, in this world, one can instantly become a Sadi Gomor through thoughts of tshuva. See the Maimar Bars Pinchas. I'll continue. Bitterness and happiness due to proper reasons. A Jew must have a proper balance of bitterness and happiness in order to achieve love for Hashem. A Jew must have bitterness in his animal soul, which is in the left side of his heart, over the fact that he is entrenched with material desires and wants, and is thus distant from desires for godliness. At the same time, he must have simcha of a mitzvah in the right side of his heart, and be overjoyed by his unique ability to actually attach to Hashem when fulfilling a mitzvah. The greater the feeling of bitterness that one has due to his distance from Hashem, the greater will be his feeling of joy when he contemplates during his performance of the mitzvah that he is now attaching to him.
Yeah, I just want to interject and maybe take over the reading again. There's 4 questions that are critical when you want to change your behavior. I read this through NLP, Tony Robbins, etc., but it's consistent with what I've seen in Chassidus, which is we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. So you want to say, what will be the pain if I don't change this behavior or I don't acquire this? And then then you say, what will be the pleasure if I do, right? That's the fear that precedes the love. Ultimately, a love is only true love if it's preceded by fear. That's where in a marriage, there's a commitment first, and then love is built over time. There's no such thing as love at first sight. There's love established over a period of respect, awe, and reverence. Okay. How can one be joyous from doing a mitzvah due to attaching to Hashem if one does not feel anything at all during the mitzvah? Yeah, perhaps this is someone's experience. I mean, certainly mine at times. In truth, every Jew unites with Hashem whenever he performs a mitzvah. Yeah, you just have to believe that. However, due to the exile and coarseness of the animal soul, this is not felt. Okay. The revelation of this feeling of attachment is saved up for the Jew until the future times when all the attachments that one accomplishes during the exile will be revealed to each soul. This is similar to one who has a chest of precious stones and diamonds that causes him to be overjoyed even when he does not currently see the treasure. Right. Or you have maybe money in the stock market that's accruing whatever it accrues. The mere knowledge that he has this treasure saved for him causes him boundless delight. Right. The anticipation, right? It's not about the experience itself. It's about the anticipation. The same applies, or the perception of, the projection of pleasure. The same applies to mitzvos, for in truth, we are drawing these revelations into a treasure chest of sorts that will be opened in the future time. Nonetheless, the fact remains that even when contemplating this matter, many of us are still not brought to any feelings of love for God. Yeah, it's a big problem. Because how do I know? And that's such a long time, right? 70 years, 80 years. Come on. Can I really keep it up that long? The reason for this is because of the exile and captivity of the godly soul within the animal soul that shuts down its emotive aspects and prevents feelings of love from surfacing, right? This spiritual exile is expressed within the overt emotions of bitterness and joy that one finds in materialistic matters, right? So to the extent that you love and you long for 7-layer cake, as Rabbi Gordon likes to use, or whatever it is, I don't know what kids are into these days. That's proportional or inversely proportionate to your inability to experience love and longing for godliness. Right. So if you have multiple apps running, the one that you're actually using is going to be less efficient, right? So you want to close the other app so that you get full. Exile is caused when the bitterness and joy are in the wrong matters. Okay. Right, exactly. These are foreign fires, considered foreign fires, right? We need to draw down the consuming fire from above that's going to consume all these foreign fires. The above mentioned feelings of spiritual joy can only be accomplished when a Jew's feelings of bitterness and joy are focused on the appropriate godly matters. However, when his bitterness is in the worldly matters, such as a lack of wealth, health, and children, while his joy is only in acquiring these matters, he's experiencing a classic case of exile of one's godly spark within his animal soul, right? Now, this exile affects 2 aspects of the godly soul, its essence and its emotive traits. It is only on this exile that of the essence of the soul that the verse says, Tzion b'mishpat tipade. Tzion, Zion, here refers to the inner spark of godliness, right? That's just like Zion is the inner dimension of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is the inner dimension of Israel. Israel is the inner dimension of the world. Really, the most inner part of the soul that contains an essential feeling of love and passion for God. Yeah. This love is in exile and needs to be redeemed. The latter part of the verse, Vishaveha Bitzdaka, refers to the power of emotion of the godly soul. This emotion has been taken captive and is now actually being used for the animal soul. I mean, I can't think of a more apt metaphor or analog considering current events. Just like a prisoner of war that now works to build the enemy's infrastructure. As a result, the emotions of the godly soul, which should have been in use for bitterness caused by distance from God and a delightful desire to cleave to Him, are now being used for bitterness in lack of worldly pleasures and in enjoyment of materialistic matters. Oy. I don't know. Is anyone like have like a hint of pity? I know we're kind of like building up this straw man or woman in exile, but if you consider it and you believe it, and if you don't believe it, you pretend to believe it, you actually can develop pity. Pity is it's natural to a Jew. Okay, a parable. A father of a large family enters the office of a psychologist. By the way, I think we're going to go until perhaps 9:50. We'll stop at 9:50. A father of a large family enters into the office of a psychologist, and then if we don't finish tonight, we'll finish on Wednesday night. I don't love my kids, he says. In fact, I think I hate them. How can I love someone who I have feelings of dislike towards? That is a profound question, the psychologist replies. Tell me a little about your upbringing and your work schedule. Perhaps that will shed some light on your condition. The father goes on to explain that he had a very rough childhood. With scant emotional support from his parents, he currently works an 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. job and has no time for his family. The psychologist explains that the father's feelings of love have been exiled and subverted. Your upbringing concealed your feelings of emotion, and your job prevents you from investing physical time and essential mental energy into doing the things needed to develop your feelings. Yeah, you might say he's married to his job. So, of course, your children are nothing but a nuisance to you. The father is told that he must understand that despite his cold upbringing, he indeed has deep-rooted love for his children in his heart, and it simply requires development. Yeah, that's all. Just like what? Like a spark. And even if you want to say there's no spark, as I assume everyone's met the Flintstone, right? The Flintstone, it could be submerged in water for millennia, and you take it out and you strike it, it'll produce a spark. So don't tell me there's no spark. He indeed has deep-rooted love for his children in his heart, and it simply requires development. This may take time and energy, but I mean, anything worthwhile does. But it can and will be accomplished. You must cut back from your work hours and spend that time with your children. Invest quality time and enjoyment that will help you develop the inner fatherly feelings that you already possess. The above is a parable for our dilemma of exiled feelings of love for God. I'm sure everyone's already figured that out, right? Our animal soul is like the cold parents that the father experienced in his own upbringing. The animal soul teaches us to have feelings solely for physical and material matters and is completely cold and turned off to feelings of spirituality. It even causes the natural feelings of love in the godly soul to be suppressed and exiled. The animal soul's emotional indulgence in worldly matters is similar to the workaholic father whose situation hinders him from any ability to invest mental energy into developing feelings for his children. The constant indulgence in worldly matters simply prevents one from activating the mental energy necessary to develop feelings for God. Yeah, that's it. He can't serve two masters. Okay. So I think we'll stop here. Oh, we're almost at the end here. Okay. Redeeming the aspect of Zion. Does anybody have a comment, question, concern, criticism? Okay. Creative contribution. Redeeming the aspect of Zion and the emotive traits of the godly soul. The verse states that Zion is redeemed through mishpat. This refers to the laws of the Torah, mishpatim. It follows that the dictum of the sages that the exiles will be gathered only in the merit of the Mishnayos. Thus, learning halacha has the special capability of redeeming the spark of godliness from exile. Yeah. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is a good place to start. The emotive traits, however, are redeemed through tzedakah. Okay. As when one has mercy on another, this causes Hashem to bestow mercy on him and redeem his emotive traits from captivity. I would imagine as a parent, there's nothing more heart-melting than seeing one of your children have compassion on another child and them getting along in a way of, right, not just a way of joy, but a way of deep empathy and, right, and feeling for each other. It's bringing tears to my eye, actually, as I said. Can we really remove our souls from exile just by learning halacha and giving tzedakah? Yeah. Many of us do both and still struggle to reach a tangible love for God. Well, do it more, do it better. What is the meaning of this mimer? The above antidotes offered by the verse are not meant to suddenly bring a rapturous feeling of love towards God out of thin air in the middle of one's day. Yes. What it can do is sensitize the feelings of the godly soul and remove it from its exile. Right. So it's a process. I'm sure no one wants to hear that, but it's you need to hear it. It is similar to placing an electric device into an outlet. If one does not press the on button, it will remain dead just as before. Right, or if your phone's dead and you're too lazy to plug it in, but then you think, God, if I just plugged it in that first time I had the instinct or the impulse to do it, it would already be fully charged by now. Why didn't I just do it, right? Even when the above services, learning Torah and giving charity, okay, if one does not press the on button, it will remain dead just as before. Even with the above services of learning Torah, as we're doing right now, Yitzch'k, and giving charity, the godly soul must still be turned on by contemplative thoughts of matters that cause one to desire and long for godliness. It is with these 2 points together that one truly removes one's soul from exile and brings it to a personal redemption. Okay, so again, we have to think about what we're moving towards and not just what we want to get away from. Ultimately, that's the best way to get away from anything, is to move towards something more compelling, right? Okay, does anyone want to read the lessons of the mimer? I'll read them, and then I have, okay, oh, someone go ahead, whoever wants to read them. And then I'm going to read one more thing. Of course, you don't, I'm not holding you here against, you're not a captive here, so you don't have to, but it's going to be about 2 more minutes, which I think is very apropos. But somebody read the lessons of the mimer while I pull it up.
I can read them.
Yasher Koyach.
Thank you. Lessons of the mimer. Understand that the core of the exile is the spiritual exile of the emotive expression of one's godly soul towards God. Develop a plan for soul nurturing to allow your soul to regain sensitivity and feeling for Him. The antidotes to doing so, as explained in the mimer, are charity, learning Torah, and contemplating matters that develop your love for Him.
Yasher Koyach. Okay, the last thing I'm going to share is from a Tony Robbins book called Awaken the Giant Within. It's a little wisdom from the nations. And you'll see how it's connected, but it's just very, very poignant. And I guess you'll see. It's chapter 4. By the way, in case I didn't express gratitude for everybody participating, showing up, every single person really adds like a world to the dynamic. Whether you participate or not, just
Thank you.
let's see. Yeah, and I meant that especially for you, Michal. Okay, here we go. Belief system: the power to create and the power to destroy. He was a bitter. Let me see. Let me see this.
I don't see it on screen.
Oh, you know. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Now you're about to 1, 2, 3. Right? You see it now?
Wow.
He was bitter and cruel, an alcoholic and drug addict who almost killed himself several times. Today, he serves a life sentence in prison for the murder of a liquor store cashier who got in his way. He has 2 sons, born a mere 11 months apart, I think Irish twins, one of whom grew up to be just like Dad, a drug addict who lived by stealing and threatening others until he too was put in jail for attempted murder. His brother, however, is a different story. A man who's raising 3 kids, enjoys his marriage, and appears to be truly happy. As regional manager for a major national concern, he finds his work both challenging and rewarding. He's physically fit and has no alcohol or drug addictions. Baruch Hashem. How could these 2 young men have turned out so differently, having grown up in virtually the same environment? Both were asked privately, unbeknownst to the other, "Why has your life turned out this way?" Surprisingly, they both provided the exact same answer. "What else could I have become, having grown up with a father like that?" I think everyone here is smart enough to relate that back to the message. So I'm going to leave it there. I think it's more powerful that way. Okay, Yasher Koach, everybody. God willing, we should meet again on Wednesday night will be the next, and then Thursday night. And if not, see you next Sunday, God willing. Okay, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.